When people pick up a can of sardines, they often believe they're choosing one of the healthiest foods on the shelf. Something rich in omega-3s, protein, calcium. But what most don't realize is that many canned sardines are packed with hidden sodium levels that can quietly sabotage your health over time. Sodium isn't the enemy when consumed naturally through whole foods, but the problem begins when manufacturers load their products with excessive salt to boost flavor, preserve shelf life, and disguise poor quality fish. What looks like a convenient meal can quickly turn into a heart-risking trap, especially if you're eating canned sardines regularly. The truth is, some brands contain more than 400 or even 500 milligrams of sodium per serving. That's nearly a quarter of the daily limit in just one can. For someone watching their blood pressure or cardiovascular health, that's a dangerous dose disguised as a snack. High sodium intake affects your body in more ways than you might imagine. It increases water retention, which can make you feel bloated and swollen, but more seriously, pushes your blood pressure upward by drawing water into your bloodstream. Over time, this added pressure damages your arteries, heart, and kidneys. It's like forcing your heart to work overtime every single day without rest. For people with existing health issues like hypertension or diabetes, that extra sodium is like pouring fuel on a slow-burning fire. Even for healthy individuals, the cumulative effect of too much salt can lead to fatigue, headaches, and a long-term decline in cardiovascular function. What's worse, you might not even notice how much sodium you're consuming until it's already affecting you. The canning industry has long relied on sodium as a cheap and powerful preservative. Salt helps extend shelf life, prevent bacterial growth, and make fish taste more appealing. But there's a trade-off. The more salt they use, the more addictive and dehydrating the food becomes. Many brands use a brine solution that's designed not for your health, but for maximizing storage and masking inferior ingredients. Some even soak sardines in salt water before canning, doubling the sodium content without declaring it clearly on the label. When you see terms like brine or lightly salted, don't be fooled. These often hide sodium levels well beyond what's healthy for daily consumption. The average person consuming these cans a few times a week can easily exceed their recommended sodium intake without realizing it. Sodium also interferes with your body's natural balance of minerals. Too much of it can drain potassium, a crucial electrolyte that regulates muscle function and nerve communication. When that balance is lost, you may experience muscle cramps, weakness, or irregular heartbeats. Over time, this imbalance stresses your entire cardiovascular system, especially when combined with other unhealthy dietary habits. The irony is that sardines themselves are incredibly nutrient-dense. They're naturally high in omega-3 fatty acids that protect the heart and reduce inflammation. But when overloaded with sodium, those benefits start to cancel out, leaving you with more harm than healing. Taste plays a major role too. Heavily salted sardines may seem flavorful at first, but they desensitize your palate over time. Your taste buds adjust to the saltiness, leading you to crave more salt in other meals. This cycle pushes your overall sodium consumption even higher, making it harder to enjoy the natural taste of whole, fresh foods. It's a subtle addiction that food companies count on. They know that salt enhances flavor and keeps customers coming back, even if it means compromising long-term health. The solution starts with awareness. The next time you shop for canned sardines, turn the can around and check the nutrition label. Anything above 350 milligrams of sodium per 100 grams is a warning sign. The number seems high or the ingredients list includes words like brine or salted sauce. It's better to skip it altogether. A truly healthy sardine should contain nothing more than fish, olive oil, and a touch of salt, just enough to enhance flavor, not overpower it. The less processed the product, the better your body will respond. Choosing lower sodium options doesn't mean giving up taste. It means choosing authenticity over artificial preservation. It's about protecting your heart while still enjoying the powerful nutrition that sardines naturally offer. One of the biggest mistakes people make when buying canned sardines is not paying attention to what kind of oil they're packed in. The choice of oil may seem like a small detail, but it completely changes the nutritional value of what you're eating. Sardines are naturally rich in omega-3 fatty acids, powerful compounds that reduce inflammation, support brain function, and protect the heart. But when those same sardines are packed in cheap, industrial vegetable oils like soybean, sunflower, or canola oil, all of those natural health benefits are compromised. The oil becomes the problem, not the fish. Most consumers assume that as long as the label says, "in oil," it's fine. But the type of oil determines whether you're nourishing your body or feeding inflammation. Vegetable oils are highly processed and chemically treated. They're extracted using high heat and solvents like hexane, a chemical that strips the oil from the seed. This process destroys any natural nutrients and produces unstable molecules that easily oxidize. Oxidized oils release free radicals in your body, tiny unstable compounds that attack your cells and contribute to aging, inflammation, and even chronic diseases like cancer. When sardines are stored in these oils, the fish absorb the damaged fats, and you end up eating a product that is far less healthy than it appears. Even though the label might boast about protein or omega-3 content, those benefits are overshadowed by the inflammatory impact of low-quality oil. Another issue with vegetable oils is their high omega-6 content. While omega-6 fats are essential in small amounts, the modern diet already contains an excess of them, from fast food, snacks, and processed meals. When omega-6 intake becomes too high compared to omega-3, the body's natural balance shifts toward inflammation. Chronic inflammation is one of the root causes of health problems such as arthritis, heart disease, insulin resistance, and mood disorders. So when you eat sardines packed in soybean or sunflower oil, you're essentially eating the opposite of what sardines are supposed to offer. Instead of reducing inflammation, you're fueling it from within. The problem is that many brands use vegetable oil not because it's healthy but because it's cheap. Olive oil is expensive and spoils faster, while seed oils can be stored for months without changing color or smell. Companies take advantage of that stability to cut costs and extend shelf life. They may even blend a small amount of olive oil with a larger portion of vegetable oil to trick consumers, labeling the can packed in olive oil, even though it contains mostly refined oils. This kind of marketing misleads people into thinking they're buying something premium when in reality, they're buying a diluted, inflammatory mix. Always look for the phrase 100% extra virgin olive oil on the label. Anything less is a red flag. The difference between olive oil and vegetable oil isn't just about nutrition. It's about how your body responds after eating. Olive oil, especially extra virgin, is rich in antioxidants and monounsaturated fats that improve heart health, reduce oxidative stress, and support the brain. It works synergistically with the omega-3s in sardines, making them a powerhouse of anti-inflammatory nutrients. The flavor is also more natural and authentic, complementing the sardines rather than masking them. In contrast, vegetable oils often leave a greasy, heavy aftertaste. They can even go rancid during storage, especially if the can is exposed to heat or light. That rancidity creates toxic compounds like aldehydes, which damage liver cells and contribute to metabolic stress. When sardines are packed in water, they might seem like a safer choice, but even that depends on how the fish are processed. Water-packed sardines are great for those looking to control calorie intake or avoid oils altogether, but they can lack flavor and texture. Some brands compensate for this by adding flavor enhancers or sodium, which brings back the same problems mentioned before. However, water-packed sardines can still be a good option if the ingredients are clean and minimal. Ideally just sardines, water, and salt. The important part is avoiding any added oils unless they are high quality and clearly labeled. It's also worth noting that the oil inside the can affects how your body absorbs nutrients. Healthy fats help you absorb fat-soluble vitamins like D, E, and K. If the oil is unhealthy, your body's absorption of these vitamins becomes less efficient, and instead of benefiting from the sardines' natural nutrients, end up with poor digestion and unwanted inflammation. In the long run, regularly eating sardines packed in vegetable oil can dull the very benefits you sought: strong heart, sharp mind, and stable metabolism. When you open a can of sardines, take a look at the oil inside. If it smells sharp or chemical-like, or if the texture feels sticky or overly dense, it's probably low-quality oil. High-quality olive oil should smell fresh, slightly fruity, and have a light golden hue. It should make the sardines taste clean, not oily. Choosing the right oil isn't just about flavor, it's about making sure your meal supports your health rather than slowly harming it. Sardines are one of the purest sources of marine nutrition, but they only remain that way if they're packed in ingredients that respect their natural goodness. One of the reasons people turn to sardines is because they're considered one of the safest fish to eat when it comes to mercury exposure. Since sardines are small and sit low on the food chain, they don't accumulate toxins the same way larger fish like tuna or swordfish do. But that reputation doesn't always tell the full story. The truth is that not all sardines come from clean, unpolluted waters. Some of the cheaper canned varieties on the market are sourced from regions where the ocean is heavily contaminated with industrial waste, sewage, and heavy metals. These hidden pollutants can make their way into the fish, and when you eat them regularly, they can slowly accumulate in your body, causing harm over time. Mercury, lead, and cadmium are among the most dangerous metals found in contaminated sardines, and they're linked to a range of health issues that can quietly develop without you realizing it. Mercury, in particular, is a neurotoxin that affects the brain and nervous system. Even small amounts can impair memory, concentration, and mood. Term exposure can lead to neurological damage, especially in children, pregnant women, and older adults. Lead is another heavy metal found in polluted marine environments. It interferes with red blood cell production, weakens the immune system, damages vital organs like the liver and kidneys. Cadmium, though less commonly discussed, can accumulate in the body's tissues and lead to bone and kidney disorders. What makes this more concerning is that these metals don't just pass through your system. They stay in your tissues, building up over time and compounding with each exposure. If you eat contaminated sardines frequently, you might unknowingly be adding to your body's toxic burden instead of gaining the health benefits you expect from such a nutrient-rich food. Unfortunately, not all brands are transparent about where their fish come from. Some simply list Sardines, without mentioning the origin, fishing region, or method of catch. This lack of transparency is a warning sign. Many of these low-cost products come from waters near industrial zones or densely populated coastal regions where pollution levels are high. Factories release chemicals, mining operations leak heavy metals, and agricultural runoff carries pesticides and plastics into the sea. The fish living in those waters absorb these contaminants, and once canned, there's no easy way to tell whether what you're eating came from a clean ocean or a toxic one. That's why it's important to choose brands that clearly state their sourcing, ideally from the North Atlantic, the Pacific, or certified sustainable fisheries known for strict environmental standards. Pollution isn't the only factor. Storage and processing methods also play a role. Some sardine suppliers fail to test for contaminants, while others don't follow proper safety measures during packaging. When factories don't regularly check for heavy metals or bacterial contamination, it's impossible to guarantee that every can is safe. The risk is particularly high for discount or generic brands that cut costs by skipping quality control. These are the same cans that often sit on shelves for years, exposed to fluctuating temperatures that can further degrade the fish and release chemical residues from the can lining. Even though sardines are considered low on the food chain, poor regulation and cheap sourcing can turn them into an unintentional source of toxins. Eating contaminated sardines might not make you sick right away, but the effects are cumulative. You might experience fatigue, brain fog, subtle changes in energy and mood long before realizing what's causing it. Over time, heavy metal exposure can disrupt your hormones, weaken immunity, strain your liver as it works overtime to filter out impurities. This is especially concerning for people who eat sardines regularly for their omega-3s and calcium. The very nutrients meant to improve health could come packaged with invisible poisons. The safest way to enjoy sardines is by choosing trusted brands that provide full traceability, ideally with third-party testing or sustainability certifications. Wild-caught sardines from clean, cold waters not only taste fresher, but also ensure you're getting real nourishment instead of hidden toxins. It's not just about eating fish. It's about knowing what's behind the label and protecting your health from the unseen dangers that lie beneath the surface. When you buy canned sardines, you might assume the only thing inside the tin is fish oil and maybe a bit of salt. But what most people don't realize is that the can itself can sometimes be the real danger. Many canned sardines on the market are still packaged in containers lined with BPA, or bisphenol A, a synthetic chemical used in the coating of metal cans to prevent corrosion and extend shelf life. At first glance, that sounds harmless. After all, keeps the can from rusting and stops the fish from tasting metallic. But decades of research have shown that BPA doesn't stay locked inside the can. Over time, it leaches into the food, especially when exposed to heat or during long storage periods. Once it enters your body, it acts like a hormone disruptor, mimicking estrogen and interfering with your body's natural hormonal balance. What seems like a small detail in packaging can quietly impact your health in ways far deeper than most people suspect. The problem with BPA is that the body doesn't know how to deal with it. It's not a natural compound, so when it enters your bloodstream, binds to hormone receptors and confuses the endocrine system. This disruption can affect metabolism, reproduction, mood, and even how your body stores fat. Studies have linked BPA exposure to fertility problems, thyroid issues, early puberty in children, and an increased risk of obesity and certain types of cancer. Even small amounts can cause measurable changes in hormone levels, and since canned foods are often consumed regularly, the exposure becomes chronic. People who rely on canned sardines as a frequent protein source might unknowingly be increasing their BPA load every time they open a tin. The danger isn't just theoretical. BPA has been detected in the urine of nearly every person tested in industrialized nations, which shows how widespread exposure is. It's not only in sardines but also in canned soups, vegetables, and beans. However, the oily environment inside a sardine can make the problem even worse because BPA dissolves more easily in fat. That means sardines packed in oil are more likely to absorb and retain the chemical compared to those packed in water. Over time, as the can sits on a shelf, tiny amounts of BPA migrate from the lining into the oil and then into the fish itself. When you eat it, you're ingesting more than just omega-3s, you're also consuming a compound that can alter the way your body regulates vital systems. Another concern is that not all manufacturers are honest about their use of BPA. Many companies avoid mentioning it entirely, while others use vague terms like BPA safe or reduced BPA, which don't necessarily mean the can is free from harmful chemicals. Some have switched to alternative linings, but those substitutes, such as BPS or BPF, are chemically similar to BPA and may pose the same risks. These BPA-free alternatives were introduced to reassure consumers, but research now shows that they can also mimic hormones and trigger similar disruptions. So unless a brand provides clear transparency about the materials used in its cans and backs it up with testing, you can't assume it's safe just because of a marketing label. For consumers who eat sardines for health reasons, this irony is frustrating. Sardines are one of the most nutrient-dense foods on Earth, rich in calcium, vitamin D, and essential fatty acids. They support heart health, strengthen bones, boost brain function. But when they're stored in BPA-lined cans, those benefits are undermined by a constant, low-level exposure to toxins that work against your body's natural balance. It's like adding poison to medicine. You still get some benefit, but the long-term cost can outweigh the good. Over time, continuous exposure can affect reproductive health, increase the risk of metabolic disorders, contribute to chronic inflammation, one of the leading causes of disease in modern life. The heat used during the canning process also amplifies the problem. When sardines are sterilized and sealed, they're often heated to high temperatures to ensure safety and preservation. This heat causes the BPA in the lining to break down and migrate even faster into the food. And because sardines are fatty fish, their oils absorb these compounds more readily. That's why sardines packed in glass jars are often a safer alternative. There's no chemical lining, and the natural oils remain uncontaminated. But glass packaging is more expensive, so only premium brands use it. Most low-cost sardine brands continue to rely on BPA-lined cans because it's the most affordable way to mass-produce shelf-stable products. The effects of BPA are subtle, which makes it even more dangerous. You won't feel sick after eating one can of sardines, but repeated exposure builds up over time. It's this slow accumulation that can lead to hormonal imbalance, fatigue, or unexplained mood swings. Researchers have even linked chronic BPA exposure to insulin resistance and higher body fat levels, showing how deeply it can affect metabolism. For people who already struggle with hormonal conditions or are trying to maintain a clean diet, this kind of contamination quietly undermines their efforts. The only real defense is awareness and careful selection. Look for brands that explicitly state BPA-free can on the packaging and, when possible, provide sourcing and packaging transparency. The best options use extra virgin olive oil and non-toxic linings or glass containers. These may cost a little more, but they ensure that what you're eating is pure, safe, and free from hormone-disrupting chemicals. Sardines can be one of the cleanest, most nourishing foods available, but that's only true when the container holding them isn't slowly leaking toxins into every bite. When you see the words, "wild caught," on a can of sardines, it instantly sounds healthier and more natural. It gives you the image of small silver fish swimming freely in clean, open waters before being sustainably harvested. But what most people don't realize is that not every product labeled wild caught is truly wild. Some of those cans may contain fish that are farm-raised in overcrowded conditions and heavily treated with antibiotics. The truth behind many of these labels is far murkier than the clear ocean they promise. Food companies know that wild caught sells because it's associated with purity and quality, so they use clever marketing language to make farmed sardines look more appealing. Phrases like sustainably sourced, ocean-friendly, or natural waters can be legally used even when the fish were raised in contained net pens or fish farms that are anything but wild. Farmed sardines often come from aquaculture operations located along coastal areas where thousands of fish are confined in nets or tanks. These environments are designed for mass production, not health. When so many fish live in a small enclosed space, waste and uneaten food quickly accumulate, leading to bacterial overgrowth and oxygen depletion. To prevent disease outbreaks, farms often rely on antibiotics and chemical treatments. These substances leave residues that can end up in the final product, even after processing. Regular exposure to such residues through food can disrupt gut health, weaken the immune system, and increase antibiotic resistance, a growing public health concern. Moreover, the nutrient profile of farmed sardines differs significantly from wild ones. Because farmed sardines are fed processed pellets rather than a natural diet of plankton and small sea organisms, their omega-3 content is lower, while their overall fat and omega-6 levels are higher. Instead of being a clean source of anti-inflammatory fats, they can contribute to inflammation when eaten frequently. Another issue with farmed sardines is environmental pollution. The waste from large-scale aquaculture can leach into surrounding waters, contaminating nearby ecosystems and harming wild marine life. In some parts of the world, unregulated farms have been known to dump untreated waste directly into the ocean. When you buy sardines from such sources, you're indirectly supporting practices that degrade the very oceans that sustain the fish population. Some companies try to offset this by claiming their products are sustainably sourced, but these claims often lack third-party verification. Without clear certifications from organizations like the Marine Stewardship Council's MSC, it's nearly impossible to know if the sardines truly come from sustainable fisheries or industrial fish farms operating under poor conditions. Wild-caught sardines, on the other hand, come from open waters where they feed naturally, develop stronger muscles, and contain a healthier balance of nutrients. They're richer in omega-3s, calcium, and vitamin D, and they have a cleaner, more robust flavor that doesn't rely on artificial enhancements. Their natural diet gives them a higher concentration of essential fatty acids that protect the heart and brain. But since wild fishing costs more and yields smaller, more unpredictable harvests, companies are tempted to blur the lines between wild and farmed sources. Some mix the two, labeling the final product as wild caught, even though it's partially farmed. Others simply avoid specifying the origin altogether, hoping consumers won't notice or care. This lack of transparency is what makes label reading so important. If a can of sardines doesn't clearly state where the fish were caught, such as the region or ocean, it's often because the company doesn't want to reveal the truth. Legitimate wild-caught brands are proud of their sourcing and will mention specific details like wild caught in the North Pacific or harvested from the Bay of Biscay. Anything vague like sustainably sourced or ocean caught should raise suspicion. You can also check for certification logos from reputable environmental organizations, which indicate that the fishery follows strict sustainability and traceability standards. In the end, what you're really paying for when you buy wild-caught sardines is trust. Trust that the fish lived naturally, ate clean food, weren't exposed to artificial chemicals. True wild-caught sardines are denser, fresher, and far more nourishing than their farmed counterparts. They don't just taste better, they support both your health and the environment. By choosing authentic, transparent brands, you're not only protecting yourself from hidden toxins and false labeling, but also supporting the responsible fishing practices that keep our oceans alive for future generations.